Go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, and welcome to this place of peace. May we find some moments of quiet contemplation. Welcome to this place of sacred love. May we gently hold all that is broken here. Welcome to this place of inquiry. Here, may we be challenged to open our minds and hearts ever wider. Come into this place of community. May we together draw the circle of love and justice ever wider. Welcome to this sacred place. Come, let us worship, celebrate, grieve, and love together. So now is the time for announcements. Does anyone have an announcement today? No takers. Oh, yes.
You want to mention one-on-one?
That's a good idea. Okay, on the 21st of January, that's the third Sunday of this month, we'll be offering a UU 101 class, which is for people who are interested in, for one, membership, because that class is a requirement for joining, but also it's open to anyone who's interested in learning about UUism. It will be held around 12 noon, starting at 12 noon on the 21st. That's a potluck Sunday, so you can grab some lunch from the potluck buffet and then and enjoy it, and then bring your dessert with you to class. I like that. So anyway, join us if you want. And now it's time to light the chalice. I need a chalice lighter. Oh, the best.
Professionally lit this morning.
Yes. In these hard times, let us look first to the response of love. In the midst of challenge, may our chalice flame bear witness to the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. In the midst of uncertainty, may our chalice be a beacon of encouragement that our values may guide our choices. Let us look first to the response of love. This morning, this morning's speaker, serves as minister of the UUs of Central Delaware in Dover. But on the first Sunday of each month, we have the pleasure of hearing her speak from our pulpit. She has a Master of Divinity degree from Moravian Theological Seminary and has served UU congregations in Connecticut and Pennsylvania. Welcome, Rev Kim Wilson.
Thank you so much. Well, at the risk of being redundant, my opening words are also a welcome message. What you read was so beautiful. You are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether tears have fallen from your eyes this past week or gleeful laughter has spilled out of your smiling mouths, whether you are feeling brave or brokenhearted, defiant or defeated, fearsome or fearful, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether you have untold stories buried deep inside you, or stories that have been forced beyond the edges of comfort, whether you have made promises, broken promises, or are renewing your promises, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Whatever is on your heart, however it is with your soul in this moment, you are beloved and you are welcome here. And yes, come and let us worship together. Join now in singing in our great hymnals. That will be number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me. Now is the time for our story for all ages. So I invite our young people to come forward, and if you would like to get a rug to sit on, you can do that. Or you can stay where you are, whatever you prefer.
So today's story is Little Blue Truck, my daughter's favorite with all the animal sounds. Horn went beep, engine purred, friendliest sounds you've ever heard. Little Blue Truck came down the road. Beep, said Blue to the big green toad. Toad said croak and winked an eye when Little Blue Truck went rolling by. Sheep said baa, cow said moo, oink said the piggy, beep said Blue. Cluck said a chicken and our chick said peep, ma said the goat and Blue went beep. Neigh said the horse, quack said the duck, beep said the friendly Little Blue Truck. Honk, yelled a yellow dump truck, coming through. I've big important things to do. I don't have the time to pass the day with every duck along the way. Vroom went the dump around the curve. He saw a puddle and he tried to swerve. Into the mud rolled the big fat truck, and his big important wheels got stuck. His heavy-duty dump truck tires were sunk down deep in muck and mire. Honk, cried the dump. He sounded scared, but nobody heard or nobody cared. Then into the mud, bump, 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 came the Little Blue Truck to help the dump. Little Blue pushed with all his might. Now Blue and the dump were both stuck tight. Help, 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 cried the Little Blue Truck. Beep, 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 I'm stuck, I'm stuck. Everybody heard that beep, beep, beep. The cow came running with the pig and the sheep. Up with a gallop ran the big brown horse. Goat jumped over the fence, of course. Then hen came flapping with chick and duck, and everybody pushed the little blue truck. Head to head and rump to rump, they all pushed Blue, who pushed the dump. They couldn't quite budge that heavy load when who hopped up but the big green toad. All together, 1, 2, 3, one last push, and the trucks were free. Thanks, little brother, said Dump to Blue. You helped me and they helped you. Now I see a lot depends on a helping hand from a few good friends. Beep, said Blue, who wants a ride. Everybody scrambled to jump inside. Oink, quack, ba, muck, moo, cluck, peep. Neigh, croak, ma. Beep, beep, beep.
Sing our children out. Our choir has a special treat for us. Let's go into a time of meditation now, and we'll begin by remaining seated and singing Spirit of Life, hymn number 123 in your gray hymnals. This is a meditation written by Effie Brooks, and I've adapted it slightly. Spirit of life, I have witnessed a loud love, an out loud love that challenges me. I did not recognize it at first, the rumble of an ocean I had long been under. But here it is, right now, and it looks just like the whole world could be. It doesn't play nice. Why should it when nice has only ever played it a lullaby? This love demands. A love so loud, it lays stepping stones at the feet of children who can't find their path home across the pipeline any other way. This love is indifferent to tolerance. It invites you into your own heart, where the spirit of love itself has come to take tea with you. Drink and know that, like that other love, this love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Perseveres. This out loud love makes no secret of its aim to get you free. But first, set fires, throw the poison to the ground, match the love, sound for sound. Spirit of life, come and bring everyone. We're giving birth to something new. Thank you so. Let's spend about a minute in silent meditation.
Now it's time for our offering. Your gifts will be gratefully received.
This reading comes from Martin Luther King Jr.'s sermon called Loving Your Enemies. I want to turn your attention to this subject, loving your enemies. It's so basic to me because it is a part of my basic philosophical and theological orientation, the whole idea of love, the whole philosophy of love. In the 5th chapter of the Gospel as recorded by St. Matthew, we read these very arresting words flowing from the lips of our Lord and Master. Ye have heard that it has been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. Certainly, these are great words, words lifted to cosmic proportions. And over the centuries, many persons have argued that this is an extremely difficult command. Many would go so far as to say that it just isn't possible to move out into the actual practice of this glorious command. They would go on to say that this is just additional proof that Jesus was an impractical idealist who never quite came down to earth. So the arguments abound. But far from being an impractical idealist, Jesus has become the practical realist. The words of this text glitter in our eyes with a new urgency. Far from being the pious injunction of a utopian dreamer, this command is an absolute necessity for the survival of our civilization. Yes, it is love that will save our world and our civilization. Love, even for our enemies. And I invite you now to join in singing hymn number 1008, and that is in your teal hymnals. When our heart is in a holy place. So, loving our enemies. What a challenging concept. When we've been hurt or wronged, or someone we love has been hurt or wronged, hating our enemy seems almost natural, like it's almost unavoidable. We see it in action every day. It's happening in Ukraine. It's happening in Israel right now. But is hating our enemy inevitable? I recently read about a physician from Gaza, now living in Toronto, named Dr. Izzeldin Abwelsh. He's Muslim, and he was the first Palestinian to work in an Israeli hospital. He became a well-known public figure active in the peace movement in Israel. In January of 2009, 3 of his daughters and a niece were killed during an Israeli bombing. In the next room from where he was sitting, as he was on the phone giving the local news station an account of the attack in his neighborhood. 2 years later, Dr. Abwelsh published a book entitled I Shall Not Hate, a Gaza doctor's journey on the road to peace and human dignity. In the current bombings of Gaza, Dr. Abwelsh has lost dozens of extended family members. Yet he remains steadfastly committed to peace, saying in a recent interview, the only revenge for murder is achieving peace. Yonatan Zegan is a Canadian Israeli whose mother, humanitarian and peace activist Vivian Silver, was murdered by Hamas on October 7th. She had devoted her life to reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians. She helped found a well-known movement, Women Wage Peace, and she was a volunteer with the group Road to Recovery, which drives Palestinian children and adults needing medical treatment to hospitals. Like Dr. Abwelsh, Vivian Silver's son is not filled with hate. He still believes in the struggle for peace, still believes that his mother Vivian had the right ideas. It's just that more people need to listen. But it's hard. Despite the work of the peace movement, most Israelis and Palestinians are victims of intergenerational trauma, and they cannot imagine peace. It's going to take time and healing and the changing of hearts, one person at a time. Where do we begin this healing, this changing of hearts? The answer, of course, is complicated, but the idea of loving our enemies is a place to start. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, there are many who believe that loving our enemies is impossible, that it's impractical idealism. But I agree with Dr. King's assessment of our future. I believe that learning to love our enemies is an absolute necessity if our civilization is to survive. In a recent interview, Barack Obama expressed his concerns about our current political divide, saying that if we believe in democracy, we have to have what he called a cautious optimism about the goodness of other people. This is pretty close to what Jesus was talking about when he said we should love our enemies. He knew it would be hard for people to hear. He knew it was the opposite of what felt natural and normal. But Jesus was a spiritual teacher who understood that it is love that will carry us forward, not hate. In a sermon on loving your enemies, King noted the significance of the fact that Jesus says, love your enemy, and that he doesn't say, like your enemy. King commented, there are a lot of people I find it difficult to like, but love is greater than like, he said. Jesus was not talking about romantic love or even friendship. The Greek word that the writer Matthew used was agapao, which means to love in a social or moral sense. We often use the related word agape, meaning affection or benevolence. Benevolence, meaning wanting good for others, a disposition to do good toward others. And yes, it's exactly the opposite of how we normally feel about our enemies. Agape is the love for our fellow human beings. It's the moral attitude that goes along with our Unitarian Universalist belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We don't have to like everybody, and we don't have to like our enemies. The goal, said King, is to have that agape love for the individual who does the evil deed, while we hate the evil or hurtful thing that the person does. An enemy can be anyone we feel enmity or hatred toward. Perhaps someone who makes our blood boil, or someone who just the thought of brings us pain because of what they said or did. It can be a former friend or lover, or a former employer. It can be a family member, or it could be a group of people or an institution. Anyone or any entity that has harmed us or harmed someone we care about. For King, of course, it was the enemy was the laws and institutions that perpetuated racism. It was the individuals and organizations who upheld and protected those racist institutions. And it was those who held white supremacist attitudes and committed violent acts against people of color. King was inspired and influenced by Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of the freedom movement in India in the early 20th century. Gandhi, after a spiritual awakening, developed a philosophy and policy of nonviolent resistance. He considered violence a clumsy weapon that created rather than solved problems, and left a trail of bitterness and hatred which made reconciliation nearly impossible. Gandhi, like Jesus, like Martin Luther King Jr. and others, believed that every human being had a kernel of inherent worth and decency. Yes, there is evil, Gandhi said, but there are only evil acts, not wholly evil human beings. King learned the strategy of nonviolent resistance and then beautifully and powerfully combined it with a call to love our enemies. In an essay, he wrote the following words: "To our most bitter opponents, we say, we shall match your capacity to inflict suffering by our capacity to endure suffering. We shall meet your physical force with soul force. Do to us what you will, and we shall continue to love you. We cannot in all good conscience obey your unjust laws, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. Throw us in jail, and we shall still love you. Bomb our homes and threaten our children, and we shall still love you. Send your hooded perpetrators of violence into our community at the midnight hour and beat us and leave us half dead, and we shall still love you. But be ye assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to suffer. One day we shall win freedom, but not only for ourselves. We shall so appeal to your heart and conscience that we shall win you in the process, and our victory will be a double victory." Loving even our enemies, believing in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. This is what we as Unitarian Universalists ostensibly believe. And yet it's so easy to make moral exceptions. It's so easy to mentally strip another person or another group of all humanity, to see them as monsters, as evil, as no good, and to let our rage and our contempt flow. This mental slide into hatred and dehumanization is partly biological. It's how we're wired. We evolved to go into a defensive mode when we feel our personal safety or our well-being is threatened. And as hunter-gatherers, we also evolved to protect the other members of our group from competitors. It's a natural, intuitive response. However, in 2024, our modern societies have come a long way from hunter-gatherer communities of our ancestors. We've got 8 billion people on the planet now. We're currently engaged in over 100 armed conflicts around the globe. Violence begets more violence. Hate begets more hate. It's a no-win cycle. Here in the US, we have our own problems with gun violence and other forms of harming and killing. Fortunately, we're not at the level of armed conflicts, at least not yet. But as we all know, our country has become extremely polarized. President Obama said in the same interview I referenced earlier, we're too comfortable right now with the idea that the other side are idiots and hateful and can't be reasoned with. That's not a good place to be. To put it simply, the world needs more people who can overcome the natural tendency to hate our enemies. If we truly commit ourselves to loving our enemies, not liking our enemies, but having that agape goodwill toward them, it makes us persons of integrity. People whose thoughts, attitudes, and actions are congruent with what we say we believe. Anger and thoughts of vengeance may feel good in the moment, but a commitment to practicing love is ultimately what will bring us a sense of inner peace and equanimity, and a deep congruence with the power of love, which is what our universalist heritage is all about, and which we as UUs are finally intentionally placing at the center of our faith as we revise our UUA Article 2 bylaws. All the major religions in their purest form place love at the center. In theological traditions, it's God's perfect love that humans aspire to. In Buddhism, it's compassion and loving kindness, which are the path to enlightenment. But because we're human, we won't do it perfectly. There's a story of two Tibetan Buddhist monks who were tortured and imprisoned by the Chinese government. And when they were finally released, they realized they were unable to practice their religion faithfully in Tibet, and they began a long and difficult journey over the Himalayas to Dharamsala in India, where the Dalai Lama lives. A couple of days into the journey, the first monk asked the second monk, "Have you forgiven your captors?" And the second monk replied, "No, I can never forgive them." "Ah," said the first monk, "so you are still their prisoner then?" So loving our enemies, freeing ourselves from our anger and resentment, finding ways to forgive. This is something we can do for ourselves, for our own well-being, despite our hurt, despite what was done to us or to someone we love. Meeting hurt with love takes open-heartedness. It means breaking through the hardness that has encased our hearts. It takes courage, a lot of courage. And depending on the situation, we may or may not want to actually engage with our enemy. Fear of abuse is definitely a reason to avoid engaging. But there are times when reaching out in kindness to our enemy can help them. It could even lead to a true change of their heart. Some years ago, one afternoon, Michael Weiser, a cantor at a Jewish congregation in Lincoln, Nebraska, received a threatening phone call from a man named Larry Trapp. Larry Trapp was the state's grand dragon of the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. His self-appointed mission was to spread hate throughout the state. His favorite pastime was making hate phone calls and inciting fear in his targets. Every day, Trap continued to harass the cantor, who finally decided to retaliate, non-violently and with love. Cantor Weiser began leaving dozens of messages on the other man's answering machine, asking him to consider what he was doing, telling him that when he gave up hating, a whole world of love would be waiting for him. Finally, Trap got tired of listening to these messages, and so one day he answered the phone. Cantor Weiser was ready. He knew that Trap was disabled and in a wheelchair. He offered to take Trap to the grocery store. Trap was flabbergasted and said, "No, thanks." But the cantor continued to call and offer help. He was so lovingly persistent that he and his wife met Trap at his house one day. And at the warm touch of the cantor's hand, Trap actually broke down in tears. But there's more. Larry Trap resigned his position in the Ku Klux Klan and made amends to every person he had harassed over the years. And he converted to Judaism. And as Larry Trapp's health began to decline, the Weisers invited him to come and live with him, and they nursed him for the last 3 months of his life. Now that's a commitment to loving our enemies. Most of us won't have an experience so dramatic. But here's the thing. For the sake of the future of human civilization, we need to make that commitment to love. Okay, but how do we do it? How do we do it? As moral psychologist Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, not H-A-T, Jonathan Haidt, wrote in his landmark book, which I highly recommend, The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. We are like riders on an elephant. The elephant is the part of us that operates based on our evolution. Its goal is to protect us and our group. The elephant is always going to think, I hate my enemies. The rider is our rational self, the part of us that can make other choices in how we think and feel and react. A rider can think beyond what the elephant believes and wants to do. As the rider, we can put ourselves in the other's shoes. We can seek to understand their perspective. We can accept that they are flawed and imperfect, as are we, and that they suffer and feel pain, as we do. They want to be safe, and they want to be happy, just like us. We can wish them well. We can wish them well. Trying to steer an inner elephant, convincing it to lean away from hate and toward love, is not an easy task. Getting from hating our enemies to loving them, not liking, but loving them as fellow humans, is not easy. Placing love at the center of our faith is not easy, but we can do it. As people of faith, committed to spiritual growth and helping create a better world, this could be the most important thing we ever learn to do. Because as Martin Luther King Jr. said, it is love that will save our world and our civilization. Love even for our enemies. May it be so. Let's join in singing our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Let's join now in saying our closing words, which are written in your order of service. Oh, and they're also right there. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. We're now going to move into a time in our service for
Extinguish the chalice.
Yeah.
Motion first.
You're going to do postal first, right? Extinguishing. Yeah, I'm second. Sure. We were doing it, we know.
Whatever.
Okay, let's extinguish.
Okay. To extinguish our chalice, we need an extinguisher. Wonderful, thank you, John. And also, we need an order of service because we all lead in unison. Our extinguisher. We extinguish the burning of the heart and wisdom, lots of the community, for the honor of things. Beings carry in our hearts and in our hands until we are together again.